तो सबसे पहले दोस्तों आईसीआई का कैंपस नंबर 1 अगर आप लोगों ने फॉर्म नहीं फिल किया है तो आप लोग समझें कि आई एम टेलिंग यू फ्रॉम द कंपनीज पर्सपेक्टिव हाउ डज द कंपनी डू द शॉर्टलिस्टिंग, उससे यू विल बी एबल टू असेस हाउ शुड आई फिल द फॉर्म. Company shortlisting is very clear. They will get in the dashboard, they'll basically get your information, which will be all on an Excel sheet, and they will do their filtering. The filtering would first start with number of attempts for sure. So the most important criteria for you would be the number of attempts. नंबर ऑफ अटेम्प्ट्स काउंट कैसे करना है, एक स्टूडेंट को इसका भी इशू रहता है कि आई फिल द एग्जाम फॉर्म बट आई हैव नॉट गिवन द एग्जाम, और आई हैव स्किप्ड वन अटेम्प्ट इन बिटवीन, और आई हैव सैट फॉर वन ग्रुप एट अ टाइम. हाउ डू आई justify in terms of what my attempts are? So you would have seen the ICAI form in which they ask you group wise attempts. So essentially speaking, if you have given both the groups together, cleared it in the first attempt, no doubt 1-1. You have given both the groups individually, cleared it in the first attempt, again you will put it like first. However, if you have given a particular group only sat for one paper, then you didn't sit for the others, then definitely that attempt is counted. Similarly, in case if you have filled the exam form and if you have not sat for that particular session or exam altogether, technically it should be counted. However, there's no specific guideline of the institute on that. So you can take a call, you can take a risk that if you fill the exam form and not attempted even a single paper in that, you can consider that not being an attempt. And accordingly, the number of attempts, you may not put that all together. If I am a multiple attempt person, would that affect my shortlisting prospect? Obviously it would, but that would not mean that you not still have shortlisting for it. So we'll talk about in terms of how the job market looks like. As in, what is your idea? इस बार कैसा लग रहा है job market? I mean, 2 minutes अगर रुके and just to have a feel of the mood. How's the mood nowadays? इस बार क्या लग रहा है? नौकरियां ज़्यादा आ रही है या यूजुअल से कम है? किसी ने हाँ करके पूछने की कोशिश की, बोले क्या बोल रहे हो? Any
Sir,
input? Yes.
Sir, I think there are openings everywhere, but I don't know if anyone get it.
Sorry,
Sir, there are openings everywhere. If you will open the LinkedIn, but I don't know whether they're actually hiring.
Okay. So everybody is collecting the data. I also agree with it. Okay, that means you've applied at places, but nothing is moving really.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. In fact, we're doing placements up on campus, karte hain, fast careers ka we do it. So this time we've seen, definitely last attempt was excellent in terms of overall job. I mean, post-COVID ke baad, there was just a demand, there was just a big upsurge in the demand, which dried down a little bit in the previous attempt, which is being followed in the current scenario also. Okay, but let's not talk about those demotivating things. I'm sure we have job for us, if not for everyone. Work experience mein aapko sirf in the form, you just have to mention your articleship, obviously. So articleship experience is something which is your experience. In your resume, when you mention, you have to mention articleship. In case if you have got any experience apart from your articleship, then you mention it additionally. However, you don't upload the resume in the ICAI portal at least. Transferable job acceptable. There are companies who will definitely look at this particular filter, because a lot of companies, particularly PSUs, company like ITC, who will have their business spread across locations, would not usually prefer a candidate who upfront is saying that I'm not ready to accept a transferable job. So if you put a no here, then definitely you're restricting your scope. Ideal way is that you should be open, and normally student yahi karta hai, sab mein yes dal deta hai, and then once he get the offer, then he kind of tries to select in terms of where he really wants to focus. Preferred industry, once again, you should be kind of open to all industry. However, the corporate recruiting also understand that you are freshers, so you may not really be very, very well acquainted in terms of what industry do you really want to make a career into. So companies may not particularly use this as a basic filter criteria. It could be a secondary filter criteria for them. Company name, you have an option to fill in the company name there in your ICAI form. In case if it's a listed company or a very large company, but not a very popularly known name, try to put listed in the bracket or aside or something like, turnover and all. That will definitely help you in shortlisting. I was speaking to a couple of recruiters who are recruiting through the ICAI campus, and they've been recruiting for last 10 years or so. And they specifically told me that usually what they do is they first apply the criteria of attempts. Now, after that, then their second criteria is for articleship as to where they have done from. And within articleship, some firms, they clearly know that these are the firms whom I have to shortlist. For others, Those firms which could be good in your own city, but may not be really very popular nationally, for those, they would see the list of the clients. And they'll try to identify if it's a known client, a listed entity, a large entity. And accordingly, that will become a basis for your shortlisting. So please use this very, very carefully. And there's a question, confidentiality breach hoga kya? So nowhere in the ethics is it mentioned that a person in service or looking for service cannot mention the client name. So it's not the chartered accountant who is mentioning it. It is basically the article who is doing it. So in that sense, and the institute itself is asking about it. So don't worry that much about it, that what will happen if I give the client name. Even if something happens, you rather sue ICAI for it, because that's they are the one who asked it from you. Before company name, then expected CTC. I mean, I think if you're first attempt guy, my straightforward suggestion would be 9-10 lakh. Otherwise 7-8 lakhs, whatever you want to put. You say, I am not going to join, sir, without 25 lakhs. You still put 10 lakhs because you're just keeping your option open. Most of the companies would not look into this particular criteria unless and until you have a very high aspiration being put up. But definitely expect a question during the interview process on this, that if you have given a very high or a low CTC, in either case, they may ask you a question that you're okay to work at 10 lakhs and we are offering like 20 lakhs in that case. So most of the companies offering higher CTC may not ask, but the ones who are offering a lower CTC may ask you that your aspirations were 20 lakhs and we're just offering 15, then why are you still accepting it? So in that sense, just have that answer ready in your mind. Center selection, larger cities. So the list is given in terms of the number of companies. Okay. So this is number of companies. If we want to kind of see, Mumbai would be the center which will have the maximum number of companies. So in the previous time, if we see, there were like 50 plus companies. Not every company are those companies you will be aspiring to look at a job for. But yes, definitely Mumbai would be number one, followed by then possibly Delhi and Bangalore, which would be kind of neck to neck. But it varies. Bangalore usually is a safe destination because normally there would be companies around. Delhi, it varies. Sometimes the number of companies are very large. Sometimes it may go down. However, if you're looking for a job in finance, Mumbai is the place where you'll have maximum financial related jobs, number one position. Delhi, most of the PSUs would for sure be also visiting Delhi. So Delhi, in that sense, you may not get a lot of management trainee kind of profiles, but you may definitely get profiles of PSUs mostly in Delhi. Bangalore is one destination where most of these companies go because down south majority companies have some or the other kind of presence. So Bangalore definitely is one of those campus areas where your conversion ratio or hit ratio could be really, really high. And a lot of chartered accountants know this fact. Because of that, majority लोग Bangalore apply करते हैं. तो despite अगर हम region wise देखें, तो India में highest chartered accountants are made in western region, followed by then central and north, and then south and then east. Despite that, Bangalore would be second or third highest in terms of number of candidates participating in the campus. So you'll find whole of Calcutta actually applying, a lot of people from Kolkata applying to Bangalore. In fact, even if you get into Bangalore companies, you'll find a lot of people coming from east settled in Bangalore there. So, it's one city which attracts talent from across location, and companies also know that. Obviously, goes without saying, most of the IT companies would come to Bangalore and Chennai like locations. Chennai, definitely, if you want to have a location, job location of Chennai, that's most preferred area. Normally, a company who is looking to hire people in North may not participate in the Chennai campus, which may not be the case in Bangalore. Calcutta, again, usually ITC like companies were registered or have their registered office there. So this is one more input. And Himang shared this with me, that normally companies, wherever they have their corporate registered office, usually they would try to participate in that city. So if you have an aspiration for a particular company that you want to get into this company only, look at where their registered office is, and most likely chances are that they'll participate in that city campus, which used to happen with ITC for a very long period. However, for the last two campuses, they have skipped the Calcutta campus of ICAI. And then Hyderabad, Pune, Jaipur, and Ahmedabad will have comparatively lower number of corporates. So this list is given primarily in the sequence of number of corporates participating, Mumbai being the maximum and Ahmedabad being the lowest. At this particular moment, what you could possibly do is people from Maharashtra should definitely look at Thane at a smaller center. You can definitely change it later on. But you can see this is once again the sequence in terms of the number of companies who participate in the smaller cities. So in that sense, you can basically say that, up to Indore, there is a safe bet. If you're going for a smaller city campus. Apart from that, if you really are from that city and are feeling convenient, you can, for the moment, you can fill it like that. So this is basically all with respect to, campus things which you should keep in mind. in terms of filling up the form. There is this particular query, you can put it a mail because you have 31st Jan as the last date. So in case if you still have not filled the form and have a query, you can put it up here. And then when you register, you have a registration fees to be paid. वो fees देने से ज़्यादा मेहनत पे करने में लग जाती है, एक बार में payment होता नहीं है. तो institute के यहाँ पे incoming सुविधाएं थोड़ी सी block करी हुई है इस level पे. But nevertheless, you should keep trying on that. ये institute ने campus insight in terms of जो कंपनीज ज्वाइन करती है, अगर आप CMI की ब्रोशर में देखेंगे प्लेसमेंट के, तो यू विल फाइंड कि डे 1, डे 2, डे 3 के लिए दे हैव गिवन अ कॉम्पनसेशन दैट इफ यू हैव टू पार्टिसिपेट इन डे 1, then in that particular case you should either offer a minimum CTC of X or a slightly lower CTC but comparatively higher number of requirement. So let's say day premium, you should either offer a CTC of 20 lakh per annum or you will offer a CTC of 17 lakh. I mean, so this is the way they kind of divide 17 lakh per annum plus minimum 15 requirements or so. However, personally, I have from my own experiences seen that companies who've been participating for a very long period also do get days which do not meet this criteria. So you may end up getting a company on day 1 which is offering, let's say 16, 17 or 15 lakh also, and that happens sometimes. Nevertheless, so that's about it. Now, very quickly in terms of what happens once you kind of given your, you submit your form. So एक बार आपने फॉर्म सबमिट कर दिया, कंपनी इसके लिए डेटाबेस कुछ समय के बाद खुलेगा, उसके बेसिस पे वो लोग फर्स्ट शॉर्टलिस्टिंग करेंगे. द फर्स्ट शॉर्टलिस्टिंग विल बी प्राइमरली बेस्ड ऑन द फिल्टर्स व्हिच आई जस्ट टोल्ड यू. Then based on that, they'll shortlist and they'll give you a tick. Once you then open up your dashboards, you will be able to then find that these are the companies who have shortlisted me. Usually rankers would have huge number of companies. First attempt would have more than 4 companies. Then as the attempts move on, number of companies would comparatively dwindle down. You know that you have choice to select any 4 out of the available set of companies. When you select those particular companies, you will basically get this particular information on your dashboard. So let's say, for example, if one of these companies has shortlisted you, so they will give you, so L&T has shortlisted you, so they'll tell you what is the job profile, responsibilities of the job, what place of posting are there. They have to specify which department and city, but many a times they don't specify, they put it like anywhere in India. CTC with all the breakup in terms of fixed component variable, one time and all that stuff. Few companies also have seats reserved, like Infosys is one example where they have seats reserved for this. PSUs could have a seats reserved under specific categories. So they'll mention that. If there is any bond requirement, some IT or equity research kind of companies do have this kind of a requirement, and then the PPT of the company. You may also get information about the number of openings which the company is having at this particular stage. So based on that, then you will have to take a decision as to, based on you understand your own mathematics, you will have to apply that what is the CTC being offered, what are the number of requirements which are there, and then accordingly you can take a call in terms of prioritizing which 4 companies should I go for. My input in terms of selection, which company should you ideally select would primarily depend, number 1, on the job profile. So unless and until you like the job profile, there is absolutely no point seeing CTC or any other. Second, definitely look at the number of requirements. So if the number of requirements are very, very low, it's like 1, 2, 3, then definitely it will be a very difficult bet to take. But you also need to understand one thing. What happens is, if I'm a corporate and if I've been asked to recruit chartered accountants, I only get 10 times the number of openings which I give. I only get 10 times candidates whom I can look at. So if in case I have really 5 requirements, I only have a choice to interview 50 candidates. Usually what I would do is that I would inflate my requirement from 5 to 10 maybe. And I would rather then have an opportunity to look at 100 candidates. Would ICAI not prohibit such things? So we've seen in the past that companies saying that we have 10 requirements and they end up recruiting just 2 or 3 candidates saying that we didn't like them. So if a company is kind of inflating it too much, it can hamper the relationship which the company follows with ICAI. But normally, since it's still a recruiter's market, these people have an upper hand. Seldom ICAI would be able to kind of push them to the direction that you have to be precise. So having said that, it's not essential that the number of openings which are mentioned there precisely would be the same. So it could so happen that a company is saying 5 openings and they end up recruiting just 2 or 3. But yes, larger corporates usually would be very precise in terms of what their number of openings are, because they would also not really want to view too many candidates or meet too many candidates. So a company, let's say, for example, Airtel has 5 requirements, they'll be more than happy to interview 50 candidates and recruit out of it. So they may not really inflate it in that particular extent. But yes, few other companies, particularly let's say Big Fours and the others, could possibly do that just to have a larger population to look at. In fact, I am sure आप लोगों ने अगर अपने सीनियर से बात करी होगी, तो लास्ट टाइम दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग हैपेंड दैट जैसा अभी आप लोग बोल भी रहे थे कि रिक्वायरमेंट सब जगह है पर जॉब शायद नहीं है. पिछली बार कैंपस में ऐसा हुआ, बहुत सारी कंपनीज ने शॉर्टलिस्टिंग दी, बच्चों ने शॉर्टलिस्टिंग एक्सेप्ट करी, और जब इंटरव्यू की बारी आई तो उनके इंटरव्यू कॉल ही नहीं आए. And why this happened? Probably these companies, all the majority of the companies now also recruit off campus. तो या तो उनकी वहां से रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल हो गई थी, एंड देन उन्होंने जब सीए इंस्टीट्यूट को कमिटमेंट दिया विच इज इन जनवरी, दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम दे हैड रिक्वायरमेंट दैट फिल्ड इट अप, बट ऑफ कैंपस they've already done bulk of their hirings, because of which they were not in too much of need, or maybe the requirements were not as many as it was mentioned on the portal. And this happened last time, that many, not just one or two, many companies did this, that they didn't even call candidates for the interview. So the interview call also didn't come even after you shortlisting it. So how should I kind of decide this? So before we select 4 companies, if in case I have more than 4 shortlisting, I will have to keep into account not just my preference about the company and the number of openings, but also the past experience of the candidates in the previous campus with respect to that company. तो जिन कंपनियों ने लास्ट टाइम ऐसा किया है, देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी दे मे डू इट अगेन. सो वील हैव टू हैव दैट पर्टिकुलर इन्फॉर्मेशन, एंड वील गिव यू दैट पर्टिकुलर इन्फॉर्मेशन एट अ लेटर स्टेज वंस वी हैव द फाइनल लिस्ट ऑफ कंपनीज पार्टिसिपेटिंग, कि किनके पास किनके साथ लास्ट टाइम में देयर वर ड्रॉप आउट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ डूइंग द इंटरव्यूज. तो अगर आपके पास चॉइस है तो योर डिसीजन मेकिंग कैन ऑल्सो गेट अफेक्टेड बाय दिस पर्टिकुलर फैक्टर. So that's the way you'll have to kind of do your shortlisting. Then once you do your bit, उसके बाद फिर company के पास एक और shortlisting की choice होती है, because some candidates will reject, and then based on that there will be a second shortlisting. You based on the second shortlisting could possibly get more or other companies. Then you'll have to select out of that. And once that is done, the process is frozen. उसके बाद में आपको कंपनी के यहाँ से डायरेक्ट इनवाइट आएगा इंटरव्यू कॉल का. आईसीआई उसमें कुछ मैनेज नहीं करता है, एक्सेप्ट इतना मैनेज करना कि किसी कैंडिडेट के एक ही समय पे 2 इंटरव्यूज आ गए तो आप आईसीआई को मेल लिख दो तो वो कोऑर्डिनेट करके उसको शिफ्ट करा देंगे. एंड दे आल्सो गिव यू कनेक्ट्स ऑफ द रिस्पेक्टिव एचआर पर्संस ऑफ द रिस्पेक्टिव टीम, सो यू कैन आल्सो रिक्वेस्ट देम. तो यूजुअली होगा ये कि कंपनी फिर डायरेक्टली आपसे कनेक्ट करेगी और आपका इंटरव्यू जूम या जो भी प्लेटफॉर्म कंपनी यूज करती है उस प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपका इंटरव्यू रन होगा. एंड देन यू विल हैव द शेड्यूल डेट ऑन व्हिच यू विल हैव टू डू द इंटरव्यू. क्या एक ही दिन में मैं 2 इंटरव्यू 2 कंपनी के ले सकता हूँ? डेफिनेटली. जो कंपनी इनफैक्ट आपके सिलेक्शन में, आप ये भी ध्यान रखना विच कंपनी कमिंग ऑन व्हाट डेट्स. सो डेफिनेटली यू नो अर्लियर द बेटर. सो अगर आपको डे 1 की 4 कंपनियां पसंद आ रही है, मे बी आप कर सकते हो. हालांकि एक ही दिन में 4 इंटरव्यू साइमल्टेनियसली देना कुड रियली बी अ टास्क. सो इट वुड बी, माय सजेशन वुड बी, इट शुड बी लाइक 3 to 1. एक दिन में 3 से ज्यादा मुश्किल हो सकते हैं देने, बट नेवरदलेस इट्स योर कॉल. एंड व्हाट यू नीड टू डू इज, पहले दिन आप 3 कंपनी में इंटरव्यू दे रहे हो, तो व्हाट वी हैव सीन इज कि आपने एक कंपनी में सपोज सिलेक्शन हो गया. सिलेक्शन होने के बाद आपने बोला कि ठीक है यार, आई एम आल्सो काइंड ऑफ कंफर्टेबल बट आई वांट टू कंप्लीट माय प्रोसेस विद द अदर कंपनी. यू यूजुअली कैन डू दैट. आईसीआई का प्रोसेस ऐसे होता है कि कंपनी ने जैसे ही ऑफर दिया, एक आपको डिक्लेरेशन देना होता है, वो ओके करना पड़ता है. एंड वंस यू डू दैट, देन यू आर पुल्ड आउट फ्रॉम द प्रोसेस विद द अदर कंपनीज. बट यूजुअली सेम डे में आईसीआई भी इतना इंटरवीन नहीं कर पाता है कि आपको दूसरी कंपनी के प्रोसेस से पुल आउट कर पाएगा. तो आपके पास एक विंडो रहता है कि उस दिन में जितनी कंपनी चाहिए है, आप उन सारी कंपनीज के साथ अपना प्रोसेस कंटिन्यू कर सकते हो. However, if you've got the job of your choice, you may not really want to do that. So this is the way kind of the, you know, the campus dates are kind of scheduled and the way interviews happen. Interviews usually, most of the companies would definitely take PIs. Some company do take group discussions. जैसे वेदांता ने लिया था एक लिस्ट, अपन ने कम्युनिटी में शेयर भी करी थी कौन कौन सी कंपनीज ने जीडीज किए थे. तो जो लार्जर सेट ऑफ लोगों को देखते हैं वो लोग जीडीज लेके कम्युनिकेशन और उन स्किल्स पे कुछ नॉकआउट कर देते हैं कुछ लोगों को, फिर रिमेनिंग सेट का ही वो लोग इंटरव्यू लेते हैं, सो दैट इंटरव्यू पे कम लोगों को ज्यादा समय दे सके. एंड कुछ कंपनीज ऑल्सो वुड टेक एन एप्टीट्यूड और साइकोमेट्रिक टेस्ट. आईसीआई भी साइकोमेट्रिक टेस्ट कराता है, उसके रिजल्ट्स आईसीआई भी शेयर करता है. तो इन केस इफ एनी कंपनी वांट्स, दे कैन आस्क आईसीआई टू डू इट, और कंपनी कैन देमसेल्फ डू इट. आईटी कंपनीज और बहुत सारी दूसरी बैंक्स होती हैं जो कुछ टेस्ट करवाती हैं. कुछ लोगों के रिटर्न टेस्ट एज इन केस स्टडी बेस्ड टेस्ट भी होते हैं.
राजे तेरे फोन का वो बंद कर.
हालांकि आईसीआई के कैंपस में अगर आप देखोगे तो आईसीआई कैंपस में मोस्टली द कंपनीज में नॉट फॉलो वेरी डिटेल रिक्रूटमेंट प्रोसेस इन कंपैरिजन टू ऑफ कैंपस. तो कई सारी कंपनियां होती है जो ऑफ कैंपस कंपैरेटिवली ज्यादा प्रोसेसेस लेती है इन कंपैरिजन टू आईसीआई कैंपस, क्योंकि उनके पास में टाइम बहुत कम होता है और दे आर कंपीटिंग विद अदर कंपनीज आल्सो, सो दे वांट टू रिक्रूट देयर सेट ऑफ कैंडिडेट्स अ लिटिल अर्ली. So this is, you know, one advantage which happens when you go through the ICAI campus. उसके बाद में कंपनी जब भी आपको एक्सेप्टेंस देगी तो एक ऑफर लेटर या इंटेंट टू ऑफर जैसा कुछ आपको दिया जाएगा। उस स्टेज पे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन वगैरह नॉर्मली आपको कुछ बताना नहीं होता, तो लेटर स्टेज पे होता है। एंड देन वंस यू एक्सेप्ट इट, देन यू कैन वेल फर्दर अपने यार दोस्त से डिस्कस करके आपने एक बार एक्सेप्टेंस दे दी, एंड देन नॉर्मली ज्वाइनिंग आपको मिलेगी। कंपनी खुद ही बता देती है या इंटरव्यू में आपको पूछ लेना चाहिए कि ज्वाइनिंग डेट कौन सी आ रही है टेंटेटिवली। कई होगी आर्टिकलशिप जून जुलाई में खत्म हो रही होगी कोविड वाले रीजंस के कारण, तो कई सारी कंपनियां होती है जो जून ज्वाइनिंग तक तो देती है। तो आई डोंट थिंक दैट शुड बी अ कंसर्न दैट यू विल नॉट हैव ऑल टुगेदर एनी ऑफर्स, बट यस ऐसा है कि कई सारी कंपनियों की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है कि हमें ज्वाइनिंग अर्ली चाहिए। तो शॉर्टलिस्टिंग के स्टेज पे आपको वो भी सोच लेना चाहिए कि कोई कंपनी अगर अर्ली ज्वाइनिंग चाह रही है तो आप उसको शॉर्टलिस्ट मत करना अगर आपकी आर्टिकलशिप लेट जा रही है। तो वो सारे फैक्टर लेके वो जो 4 कंपनी का सिलेक्शन है दैट हैज टू बी डन वेरी वेरी केयरफुली सो दैट यू हैव द राइट प्रोस्पेक्ट्स विद यू। दिस इज जस्ट अ क्विक डेटाबेस विद रिस्पेक्ट टू कितने कैंडिडेट्स आप क्वालिफाई हुए थे। तो आप जैसे देखोगे एज आई वाज टेलिंग यू, पिछले अटेम्प्ट के कंपैरिजन में इफ यू सी द प्रीवियस अटेम्प्ट यू कैन सी इन टर्म्स ऑफ नंबर ऑफ कंपनीज। So February, March 2022, which is just like, after the COVID lockdown and everything, there was just a sudden ballooning in terms of the number of companies coming. इतना कभी नहीं हुआ था. Number of jobs offered, आप देखिए, this is by far, this particular thing is much, beyond any other campus. However, previous attempt was also not bad, and मेरा expectation है this attempt should be more or less similar to the previous one. Number of jobs accepted. चलिए किसी को जॉब मिल गई। तो नंबर ऑफ जॉब्स ऑफर्ड के अगेंस्ट में आप एक्सेप्टेड देखोगे दिस इज लाइक 3500, विच एसेंशियली मींस कि 12,000 में से 10,000 आईसीआई के पास गए और उसमें से 3,500 लोगों को जॉब एक्सेप्टेंस की, मतलब उनको जो जॉब मिली उन्होंने उससे एक्सेप्ट कर ली। देयर इज नो डेटा विच सेज कि इन 3500 में से कितने लोगों ने ज्वाइन किया। माय रैंडम गेसेस की 3500 में से आप ज्वाइनिंग निकालोगे तो शायद 2500 आई होगी। ऐसा आप क्यों बोल रहे हो सर इतना बड़ा नंबर? तो आप देख सकते हो, हालांकि ये पिछले 5 सालों का डेटा है, but if you see the database you can clearly see out of the total jobs offered the highest jobs offered are 6600 by PW। क्या बात कर रहे हो सर, सत्यम का फ्रॉड करने के बाद एकदम से बढ़ गया इसका। तो PW में मेजॉरिटी हायरिंग जो करती है वो PW की इंडिया प्रैक्टिस नहीं करती है, उनका जो SDC है विच इज बेसिकली ग्लोबल डिलीवरी सेंटर्स जो होते हैं इनके, जो ऑफशोर ऑडिट करते हैं। तो ऑल द बिग फोर्स हैव देयर यूनिट हियर जहाँ पे वो यहाँ बैठ के बाहर के ऑडिट्स करते हैं because of obvious reasons that India comparatively has good talent and available at a lesser cost। So PW का majority recruitment जो होता है basically उनके offshore center में, which is not one of those offers or jobs which is very aspirational for a lot of us। Similarly, if you see ICICI Bank is the next biggest recruiter, which is you can see 3,700। तो ये जो आप टोटल नंबर्स देखते हो ना ये बड़े डिसेप्टिव हैं, क्योंकि इसमें से हो सकता है 3,500 जो ये एक्सेप्टेंस है इसमें से मे बी 700-800 एक ही कंपनी में, और टॉप 3 रिक्रूटर निकाल लोगे तो उसमें 1,500-2,000 निकल जाएंगे। तो अदर कंपनीज द नंबर ऑफ जॉब्स इन दैट सेंस वुड बिकम कंपैरेटिवली अ लिटिल लेसर। सीटीसी लेवल पे नॉर्मली जो बिग 4 सीटीसी ऑफर करती है वो बेंचमार्क बन जाता है। तो आज की तारीख में बिग 4 8.5 लाख टू 9.5 लाख बेसिक ऑफर करती है। आपकी आर्टिकलशिप एक्सपीरियंस स्ट्रॉन्ग है तो 10 से 11 लाख करती है। तो आप ये मान सकते हो इतना सीटीसी आप मोर और लेस एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ योर नंबर ऑफ अटेम्प्ट्स। कंपनीज जो 7-8 लाख का सीटीसी दे रही है दे रियली फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ tough time to actually recruit candidates। So आप basic expectation irrespective of your number of attempts जितनी रख सकते हो, बट ठीक है आपकी लोकेशन आपकी प्रोफाइल प्रेफरेंस इसके बेसिस पे आप थोड़ा बहुत ट्वीक कर सकते हो। चलिए, so I think this kind of helps। If you have any questions on this, please shoot।